Hello. All right, the Reds. It is live at 5 with me, Gareth, Robbo, Tim, Paul, Cope. The collaboration between This Is Anfield and the Late Challenge podcast continues. Do check out our stuff over on the Late Challenge. Slightly different to the stuff we do here. Very different to the stuff we do here. But you might like it. And if you like us, go and check that out. But no footy. Or no footy to be asked about, let's be honest. In the weekend just gone, the Reds having a rest. Reds involved on international duty, of course. But I've largely ignored that, if I'm being honest, because I only have enough time and enough effort to go into the Reds. So I'm waiting and counting down the days to go into Wolves. So in the meantime, we thought we'd talk about the manager. We thought we'd talk about Jurgen Klopp this week. Just shy of 8 years in charge now at Liverpool. Took charge of his first game of Liverpool, October the 17th, 2015. 0-0 away to Spurs. And what we're talking about today is the 300 games he's now managed in the Premier League. He hit that particular milestone against Aston Villa. Let us know what your favourite moments are. We're going to talk about ours. We're even going to try and do a top 10 rank of our favourite moments as we move on. But I thought before all of that, we'd just sort of reflect a little bit on how good he's been for us. I've heard people describe him as, a certain generation's Shankly. And I totally get that. I understand that. And when you think about sort of, the managers we've experienced, matchgoers of my age and younger, he's certainly the best among those, obviously. And what's he achieved? Well, the first league title in 30 years is the big one. I can remember Kopi, when we got him, when he was secured, being very giddy about the fact that he was coming our way. Say what you like about Rodgers, whether you were a man who was impressed by him or not. He was a huge upgrade on Rodgers. Even Rodgers at his best, never mind his worst. So he was a man that I always remember. The thing I always reference in these conversations is I think it was World Soccer magazine. Their front page said the most wanted man in football. And it was like that. And you think about all the places he could have gone. He subsequently talked about he turned down Man United, City, I believe, had a sniff, Arsenal, Tottenham. But he chose us. And it was a fantastic get one way or the other, whatever the reasons are. And I remember saying, and I'm sure you were similar, or you would have had mates who said the same. We were like, if this man can't win us the title, if this man can't put that particular thing to bed, no one can.
Yeah, it's funny. It's hard to remember now, isn't it? Because we've seen this before in our lifetime. I remember always talking about Rafa doing this. When someone changes the expectation levels through the work they've done. And we see this happening in life. I always feel sorry for people because it's like, no, but you're judging him now based on what he's achieved.
Yeah.
And now you're getting like, you're getting beat by the bar you've set. And I always have a lot of sympathy for that because it's hard to remember just how shit it was for a long time. Yeah. Like I supported Rodgers and we had that 13-14, but even 13-14, I think when we look back at that season, it's because of the way it ended was with rose-tinted glasses, or maybe not right at the end, but before Christmas, we still weren't that good. I think it was away to Hull, we got beat, the squad wasn't great, and something I think Rodgers still to this day was really good, that was once you hit a wave, ride in that wave, and that nearly took us to a title, obviously. But as you say, the upgrade to Klopp, and then what he did from that point. And we'll go on to that, like when we talk about the games later, there's a couple of little moments in there right at the start. And I remember him getting shit for it. Like the West Brom game when we drew 2-2 at home. And he did the line that he used to do with Dortmund and went up to the cop and did the bowing thing. Yeah. And he got shit for it everywhere, didn't he? And yeah, you look back and go, fucking hell, he knew what he was doing though, didn't he? Because he knew like he had to, it becomes cliched and it becomes like a little sound bite and stuff, but that whole doubters into believers thing, it's easy to just go, oh, it was just a sound bite. No, he came into our club and he had to change an entire ecosystem, not just the club itself and the players and the backroom staff and the mentality, but the fan base as well. He had to shift all of that baggage that we'd been carrying for decades, literally decades. The other managers were coming in and saying, it's too big, basically. The players are all carrying around this rucksack of the past and blah, blah, blah. He had to shift all
that
of that.
was his line. That was his line that you just used, I mean, and you're right, but he spoke about it differently, didn't he? I think other managers, it looked like it got them down. It looked like it weighed them down. It looked like it was pieces of concrete in the boots. Yeah. Whereas he he embraced the size of the club and embraced the fact that there was history. But equally, he seemed to do it in a very clever way. And you're right, doing the thing against West Brom, but also just everything he said from day one, all the way through. It felt like kind of like we were involved, and he wanted us to be involved. And when I try and think about, well, why did he choose us over the others? I think it's the football romantic in him. I think he'd seen the Kop, he'd seen Liverpool. Definitely. He knows the story, and he wanted his bit of that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And he's still referencing Anfield now, isn't he? And I think he's right to. Every single season, every single year in football, someone somewhere will talk about what ground's got the best atmosphere and all that, and it stirs up all the fans, and they all make their own claims. I'm happy to say it's us. And if people disagree, well, that's up to them. But what I will say, though, is before Klopp arrived, people were saying, me included, and I wrote articles in fanzines and stuff like that, saying, has it gone forever how we remember it? That really fervent support, will we ever see that come back? It came back under Klopp. We saw it under Klopp. And there's been so many good games, and we're only talking about Premier League today. But even in the Premier League, you referenced 13-14. We got 84 points in 13-14. And okay, roller coaster ride, go close to winning the league. But, under Klopp, we've won the league, 99 points. We've obviously got 97 and 92 there as well, pipped by a point both times. We've been to 3 Champions League finals, won 1. Lost 2 to Real Madrid, obviously. I mean, we know all these things, but, someone just put in the comments there, and the right to say it. They said, I'm sure I've just seen something recently about him doing better than Ferguson and Wenger in the respect of his first 300 games, and the right. So Klopp has won 188 of his first 300 Premier League games. Ferguson won 183 and Wenger won 180. The mad thing about this, and the mad thing about any conversation about how good someone is in the modern era, is, what would you call them? Mainstream writers, mainstream journalists, they all benchmark it against Guardiola, and I never do, because what's the point? So, okay, he reached 200 wins, Guardiola, before even managing 300 games. But so what? Like, it's just a big shrug, isn't it? It's not a benchmark of anything to compare to him. If you're the manager of essentially financially dope cheats, then with 115 charges over your heads, then I don't think we need to benchmark Klopp against that. What we do need to do is probably say, he's won the league after that 30 years of wait at probably the hardest time in football to do it, because they're there.
100%. Yeah, and it's funny. I think it's worth saying as well. Like, I'm not I don't think as strongly as you. I don't think anymore. I've put a lot of thoughts into this recently about City and Guardiola, because I think Guardiola just legitimately is a great, like maybe one of the greatest managers of all time.
I've got respect for him in that respect.
It's easy to say you had loads of money to spend, but look at all the other clubs that have had loads of money to spend in that time. Do you know what I mean? It's that if he hadn't been there, and I'm still saying this, like, there'll come a point when Guardiola is not Man City's manager, and we'll see this to be true. Like, having that much money is not the be all and end all. United have spent well more than money on us in that time. Look at Chelsea in the past fucking 2 seasons, £1 billion.
It helps that there's no jeopardy, though, does it? You know what I mean? Like, if your system is, we've got to get it right, and every pound we spend, we've got to ache over it.
Yeah,
whereas he just got, I'll just buy him, and if he's shit, I'll get rid of him, and we're not bothered.
Yeah, of course. Like, of course, they have an advantage in that sense. But it's funny, isn't it? Because it's too easy to look at the advantages, I think. I think if you said to Guardiola, what advantages does Klopp have managing Liverpool? He'd reference everything you started by talking about. The reason Klopp wanted to manage Liverpool. I've looked at Guardiola and people like Mourinho in the past and thought, you'd love to be our manager.
Oh, I know.
Imagine Guardiola's ability with our power behind him. I always used to reference Mourinho in I think it was the Ghost Goal game, and he turned up, and it was just, he did this every now and then back then, especially when he was younger. And I've always liked Mourinho. I can't help it. Like, he didn't have his suit on. He had like trackies on. He hadn't had a shave. and he just stood on the touchline with
That's the Gerrard game, isn't
40,000.
it?
Was that the No,
Yeah.
well, maybe my
It was the
mind's
scruff that
misremembering
day,
it.
definitely.
Well, maybe it was both. I don't know, but whatever it was anyway, it was a game when 40,000 Liverpool fans were all singing in unison, "Fuck off, Mourinho," like with a passion, and he stood there soaking it. You could feel him soaking it up. And I remember just looking at him thinking, all that's going through his head is, imagine if I had these behind me. Imagine if I could tap into this, how good I could be. And I think Guardiola thinks the same thing.
I do.
Like, when he's having a pop at City's fans and he comes and they play us, and he's just like, even the great Guardiola quotes things like, well, sometimes you just have that mad 15 minutes at Anfield and there's nothing you can do about it. And it was, since then he has started doing something about it. And what he's done is break all his principles in order to try and do something about it. So when that 15 minutes happens at Anfield, now watch him. They start kicking the ball out and they start going down and like playing for time, and because he's just trying to do anything to stop that momentum. So there is the flip side of it. And I agree with you that you can't use it as a benchmark. What Klopp has done, the benchmark against Ferguson and Wenger's better, I think. What he's done is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable. And you do have to, like, even when you read out the list, and I was looking on your agenda before, you didn't even put on that, like, his other cup finals. Like, he got to the Europa League final in his first half season. It's one of the things
I'm just conscious of that. We're only doing 45 minutes or so.
I'm doing about 20 on this myself. But this is the point. Like, I always reference this as well when other managers use Klopp as you need to give me time. Lampard's done it. So, like, give me time. People like Jurgen Klopp got time. You're like, fuck off. Jurgen Klopp came in and improved our team in the first game.
Yeah,
he got a shit team to a Carling Cup, whatever it was back then, League Cup final, City, and a Europa League final in the first season. Yeah. He's been to 3 Champions League finals in 8 seasons. 3. There's another sliding doors world in which Jurgen Klopp has won 3 league titles and 3 European Cups. Yeah. And everyone's going, oh my God, it's Bob Paisley level.
And we could have a conversation, which I'm trying to hint at, but I don't want to have, that when you benchmark it against who he's playing against and who his opponents are and how everything's geared to, it's easier for them to win than it is us, then, I know people don't like to hear about finishing second and they'll start quoting Bill Shankly at me and all that kind of stuff. But I just think this type of football, this world of football that we're in, is a completely different one to one we've experienced in the past. And if we're just talking solely about Jurgen Klopp, which we are, then you have to say he's done an amazing job.
I would say this, right? People love throwing quotes from 80 years ago back at people. If Bill Shankly was Liverpool's manager now, he wouldn't be saying first is first and second is nowhere, because he'd
be moaning about City as well.
Exactly. And he lived in an era where you could come up from the division below and win the league the next season. It's a completely different world. And our mate Rob Gutman always says this, and I love it, and I think it's absolutely right. Like, in Olympics, getting a silver medal is an achievement. Like, imagine if you ranked Klopp's achievements as gold, silver. When you get an athlete gets to the end of an Olympic Games and it's like they got 5 gold medals, 4 silver medals, and 3 bronze medals, and everyone's like, "Fucking hell, that's good, isn't it?" They don't just dismiss the silvers and the bronzes.
Someone's put that he's a great. I'm presuming he's meaning Guardiola said he's a great manager, but he's playing on amateur difficulty, which I quite like. I mean, Klopp's Premier League record, to bring it back around to that. Played 300, won 188, drawn 69, lost 43, an average of 2.11 points per game, 637 goals in those 300 games, 2.12 goals per game, and conceded 293, 0.98 goals per game. So basically winning every game 2-1. The Reds have also smashed through the 900 goal milestone in all comps now under Klopp. 902 goals in 437 games. Again, obviously an average of better than 2 goals a game. Win percentage wise as well, I'm going to give a bit of a caveat in a minute on this. But if you look at all the managers from Bill Shankly to the modern day in Liverpool's history, Klopp comes out top in terms of win percentage, 61.56% win percentage, which is unbelievable. Shankly's was 51.98, Paisley's 57.57, Dalglish's is 58.53, and that's my caveat. I still love the king, and that's adding his 2 managerial periods together.
Yeah, it should be separate, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
They should have two separate
I understand
ones.
why it's listed that way, but you know, if you list them separate, I think his first period will still be, you know, higher than Klopp in terms of win percentage.
When you talk about benchmarks, I think this is a more interesting benchmark, Klopp against previous Liverpool managers. But the other thing to note for all of them as well, including Ferguson and Wenger, by the way, is what were they taking over?
I know,
so
yeah, 100%.
Shankly's win percentage was him taking over a second division football club. Bob Paisley's win percentage was taking over Shankly's team.
Yeah.
So Bob Paisley had a leg up there, didn't he? Dalglish's win percentage is taking over an unbelievable Liverpool team. Jurgen Klopp's win percentage is taking over a side that was in disarray.
Yeah. No, 100%. Really low on the list there is obviously Hodgson, 41.94, but we'll have to do that another day. I wanted to mention as well before we get into ranking the matches, he's unbelievable, Klopp, in terms of Anfield. And you know, I mentioned before that I think that was part of the reason he came in the first place. You think about when he was like Dortmund manager and we were all fawning over him, weren't we? Because he like touched the "This is Anfield" sign. You saw him looking at the cop as well and stuff like that. And we were all like, does he fancy a bit of this? I hope so, do you know what I mean? And then he did. And I found today, I was looking this up here, prepping for the show. I found what he said in his first match day programme note. So his first home game as Liverpool manager was against Ruben Kazan. And in the programme, he said, "This is my first time as manager of Liverpool for a game at Anfield, and it's something that will be very important for me and my staff. You, the fans, have a vital role to play in what we're looking to achieve. You are a very special group of supporters, and the atmosphere you create is unique. I ask that you believe in this team and believe that together we can achieve great things. We must all stay together and look to enjoy the experience of following such a great club. Football should be about joy and fun, and that must be reflected throughout the entire organisation. The team will go out and battle for you and look to represent you, the club and the city in how we approach our work. This is my commitment." I mean, fucking hell. Like, look at my arms, like, the literally hairs standing up on my arms reading that out. Like, I'd go out and go to war now for Jurgen Klopp off the back of just reading that. And when you look at the home record, so, you know, 2015-16, 4 home games in the Premier League that season are managed by Rodgers, so there's a bit of a caveat. But that season, we play 19 at home, win 8, draw 8, and lose 3. The following season, won 12, drawn 5, lost 2. 17-18, played 19 at home in the league, won 12, drawn 7, undefeated. 2018-19, played 19, won 17, drawn 2, lost none. 2019 to 20, obviously win the league, played 19, won 18, drawn 1, lost none. 99 points, win the league. 2020 to 2021 season, played 19, won 10, drawn 3, lost 6. COVID season. No one in the grounds for much of the season. When we lose to Burnley at home 1-0, Ashley Barnes penalty, 84th minute, January 2021. No fans in the ground. The first Premier League defeat at Anfield in almost 4 years. And the one previous to that was 2017 Crystal Palace. That was a run of 68 games at home in the league, won 55, drawn 13, lost none. And that was a club record in the whole of the history of Liverpool. And then since then, 2021-22, played 19, won 15, drawn 4, lost none. Back to it. Even last season, which is generally regarded as a bit of a shit show, played 19, won 13, drawn 5, lost 1. This season, obviously, played 2, won 2. But 4 seasons unbeaten at home in the league is unbelievable, isn't it? And this is something I've always banged on about. I wrote a big, massive piece once to the Anfield app about it. It's always been my belief that if you're going to go and do something, the first thing you do in footy is make sure your boss at home. Because you look at results going back in history, and I have done, it's always built on that first and foremost.
Yeah.
You know, that's where Fortress Anfield comes from, Bastion and Invincibilities and all of these kinds of things that we all love. That's where it comes from, because that's where your fans are, isn't it? That's where the majority of your fans who go to the match come and see you. So if you turn it on there and you make it a place that other teams don't want to come to, not only are you doing that, but you're also impressing your own fans and you're creating the feel good, and the feel good helps, and on you go. And he's been unbelievable in sorting us out at Anfield.
Yeah, it's almost a perfect example of what we were saying before about, you know, setting your own bar and then being measured by your own bar. Because everyone just takes that for granted now. Like, we just don't get beat at home. To the extent that when we got beat,
is unbelievable.
Yeah. When we got, but that, to the point that when we started getting beat again, everyone's like, what?
I know.
And then there's people going, maybe he should be sacked. Like, other teams get beat at home, you know. This is a new thing. Like, he's transformed it. And you're right. I was thinking about this the other week, and I do think there is. I don't want to get, you know, I'm living in the moment and all of that. So, but my mind just wandered to the future when he's not here anymore. And I do just think we'll look back, and there will be. I'm not just pointing the finger at the owners for this, because I do think there's a club wide thing that's going on, including the manager and including the coaching staff and the people picking players. But I do think we'll look back and think there's been a bit of a missed opportunity, because what he's done to do what you've just described with the fan base at home and like really, really drawing off that, I don't think the owners have done enough of. And I'm talking from like a corporate perspective. Do you know what I mean? Like, think of how many miracles we've had just under Klopp.
Yeah.
Like, and our club has been built on those miracles. From a marketing perspective, if I ran our football club, I'd be like, whenever that happens, get it out worldwide. Do you know what I mean? Make as much money as you can off the back of the fact that we are unbelievable. This is, if you live in India or you live in the Far East or whatever, you live in America, this is the football club you should be supporting. This is the stuff you should be buying, because we're the most romantic club in the world. We've got the best atmosphere in the world. To go back to what you said before, really, really play on that, because that's how you then get more money to compete with City and stop. And instead of complaining about it, go out and do more to make more money, to give him the resources so that everybody's building off this unbelievable fan base that we can have. And going back to the positives of him, it's phenomenal. You can't, I think we do need to check, me included, like we need to check ourselves every now and then and just come back to just how much that has improved since he came in and how he transformed it. That, you know, reference the West Brom game, but that, you know, you said about hair standing up on your arms, that first game against Spurs, like the one I've referenced frequently and will carry on referencing it, Lallana coming off as a sub and just falling into his arms.
Yeah.
Now, you can say what you want to me about anything in life, about sports science, about nutrition, about blah, blah, blah. That happens because that footballer went onto the pitch that day and he wanted to run himself into the ground for that manager.
Yeah.
Exactly what you've just described. That's just a man. That's a man standing in front of a group of players and inspiring them to play a certain way and to do a certain thing. We're seeing it now. We mentioned the other week, we've both got this love for Spurs new manager.
Yeah.
You can see the same thing in him.
Yeah.
You can see players going, fucking love playing for him.
Yeah.
Why? Because Joe, what he says, when we score 2, score 3. When we score 3, score 4. Come on. This is the type of footy I want to see. Klopp came in with his rock and roll football and all that. And I've even seen Neville recently, like, referencing that for all the money and for all the Guardiola being great and all that, he's always preferred watching Klopp's Liverpool side because it's a more entertaining football to watch. Yeah, it's absolutely box office.
It's box office. And, you know, I can remember, you know, obviously doing what I've done for so long, you know, I can remember, you know, the back end of Rodgers' reign and how grim it was and, you know, stuff that we don't like to talk about, like fans turning on each other, like being in the people leaving early, which obviously Klopp got stuck into early on when we got beat by Palace, didn't he?
And that's underrated, by the way. Yeah. Like, think of the balls it took
to take on the fans at that point. I know, 100%. And he's still doing it now about his song, isn't he? Which, you know, I don't necessarily agree with, as I've said already on here, and that upsets a few people, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, I literally love the fella. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And if he gets one thing wrong and it's his manner as that, I'm not complaining. Yeah. But, you know, I can literally remember, you know, goals going in against us at the end of Rodgers' reign and even at the start of Klopp's reign and a bit of a hangover. Just the body language of the players. You could see the shoulders slump, the heads go down. You could see that they didn't back themselves to turn all these football miracles around. And it's totally different now. And I think, you know, some of my choices of game among my top 10 league games under Klopp, it was when that was happening. Do you know what I mean? It was when you started to see it turn back the other way and go, this is the start of something special. So have you got a top 10 of you? Have you got your? I haven't seen if you've done a list here. You say
yeah. So I've done a list, and I was looking through yours before, and I tried to put them in some sort of order, but just in that, it's fucking hard, isn't it? And I remember as well, because I saw people talking about this in the week online, and people are throwing in games, and like, no, you can't have that, mate. That's another. We're talking about Premier League.
Yeah.
So it just shows you like how many great nights we've had, how many great games. Dortmund, Barcelona. And even before I start doing that, I was like, it's mad no one will mention the Champions League final. No one mentions the game in which we won a European Cup. And then I went, oh, you can't have that one either, because we're just talking about the Premier League.
We're just talking about the league today, yeah.
So how do you want to do it?
Well, shall I tell me mine, and then I'll tell you mine, like my number 10, and then you do your number 10, and it might be the same or it might be different. Should we do it that way?
Go on. Yeah, go on.
So I'm starting at number 10. My 10th favourite Premier League game under Jurgen Klopp is Norwich 4, Liverpool 5, 23rd of January 2016. I was at this one. I've got some friends down in Norwich, so I always make sure to go to this away when they're up and we're playing them. And it was just absolutely unbelievable game, a 9-goal thriller. Klopp spins going flying. You might remember a shirtless Lallana running towards him. Benteke, I think it is, who breaks Klopp's glasses. And, it'd gone all over the show, this game, hadn't it? They'd scored in 92nd minute in injury time, and then we scored in the 5th minute of injury time to win it. Absolutely all over the show as a game. We were getting beat 2-1 at half time. And then it just went off, and it was just like a brilliant away end to be in. And that was the sort of start of exactly what I'm talking about, where you're like, the sort of never say die thing, the fact that, there are still minutes or moments left in the game, so let's still try and win in those minutes and moments. And that's my number 10.
Well, I watched the goals back for that one before, like just in a few of these I watched them back, because I was like, oh, Joe, as you're flicking through, you forget them. We were 2 goals behind in that game at one point. We were 3-1 down.
Yeah.
Which is mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think we went 4-3 up, then they equalised. And then we got that goal. Then even things like that, you forget how influential players like Lallana were in the early days of Klopp.
I love a comment we've already got. That's at least 6th. Look,
you're wrong, Robbo.
Like, these are the games that are special to me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of them are going to be ones I was at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I said this to the week on something like, there isn't a right and wrong answer,
no.
by the way.
It's just a list, and it doesn't matter. It's just a list,
and it's all right. And for whoever that was, like, you'll be pleased to know that is in my list, and it's at 6.
There you go.
So it's higher up.
What have you got at 10?
At 10, and look, I made a list of 12 and put a couple in the bottom, and I did actually put like smart arse answer would be the 2-2 versus West Brom, but it's not a great game and all that, but it's a very it's huge. But what actually made my 10 was the West Brom with the Alisson header. And look, when loads of these in this list, and there's one in there that obviously that'll be in both of our lists and most people's lists, but that includes our blue brethren. But I mean, whenever things like that happen, I can't help but think of them and them just being like, just fuck off.
I know.
So like, you've ticked every other fucking box of all the great things you can do and miracles you can have, and now you're scoring last minute winners headers with your keeper to get in the Champions League. And by the way, what a fucking header.
Well, I've got that at 5.
Oh, have you? There you go.
Yeah,
so you've got to hide up.
Just because it was so unbelievable. Yeah. It was like, there was videos kicking around, wasn't there, of, Anfield rap reaction to it and whatever. And I'm on the second one, I think, running around an empty office because it was, COVID, there was no one there and all that. And it was just a grim time, a grim season. And then for that to happen, and it's the only time it's happened in the history of Liverpool Football Club.
It's wild.
It's absolutely
it's
mad.
Proper
and like you said, what a header as well.
Yeah. It's old school reference, isn't it? But it's proper Roy of the Rovers stuff.
Billy the Fish.
How often do people go, oh, the goalie's coming up, and everyone's like, yeah, whatever. And he rises like a fucking salmon and like smashes a header in the top corner like he's a seasoned like number 9. It was unbelievable.
Unbelievable, honestly. Smiling past myself thinking about it now. So that was your 10, was it? West Brom?
That was my 10, yeah.
That was your 10.
But I mean, I could be persuaded to move these around.
I mean, I'm the same, yeah. And So 9. Well, let's just keep motoring through and see if we ever agree on anything. Probably not. So number 9, I've got Arsenal 3, Liverpool 4, the 14th of August 2016. Again, I was at this one. It was an opening day of the season. Sunny day. I think it was the first time we saw Sadio Mane. I'm pretty sure that was his debut. And he scored an unbelievable goal. And I remember coming out of the away end and we were giving it proper, like, you know, that was like a John Barnes goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were absolutely buzzing. And that was funny that day as well, because it's 1-1 at half time, and then Liverpool are, what are they? Are they 4-1 up at one time or something like that? I'm just looking at the order of the goals here. But what was funny about it was that Klopp sort of bollocked himself afterwards, because there was similar to the Norwich one, there's like a bit of a celebration on the sidelines, wasn't there? The manager involved and all that. There was a great free kick from Coutinho as well. There was a 19-pass move in this as well. It's all coming back because I can remember us making a graphic about that back in Anfield Rap days as well. But yeah, what I liked about Klopp afterwards, he says, okay, I have a big part to play in the excitement in the last half hour. It's not allowed to celebrate the 4th goal when there's still half an hour to go. Yeah. And I knew it in the moment, but it was too late because I already had Sadio on my back.
It's a great quote, that, isn't it?
I know, it's brilliant, isn't it? And it sort of sums him up, doesn't it? It's like, we know that he gets emotional about the football. We love that he gets emotional about the football. And like, he was doing it. I mean, you could have, I've already thought, I haven't put Newcastle into this list from the other week. You could easily put it in there.
100%. That's not in my list.
And you know, the way he was about that. I know, there's so many. It's so hard.
What was that? I've seen people mention this. Like the one, I can't remember who we were playing now, and he pulled his hamstring celebrating.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
And I was just about to say to you that it's funny because if you're looking him back, the Norwich celebration and that Arsenal one would have been similar, but the Norwich one is the one that stands out because of the glasses and all that. You've got to remember, he was 8 years younger as a man then. It's a big 8 years, isn't it? Like, he's gone into his 60s while he's been managing us. We've referenced on this show and in the past as well, like what we do.
60s?
Isn't it? Late 50s, sorry.
50s, yeah.
But like, to go from your early 50s to your late 50s whilst managing this football club, and what we've said is the effect it has on managers. I've referenced to Joe. Go and look at Rafa, start and end. Kenny Dalglish's another one. Go and look at Kenny, start and end. Like, fucking hell, like, this job ages you. And I was about to say to you, and he's obviously calmed down a bit, but he hasn't calmed down that much, has he? He might not be carrying Sadio Mane around on his back anymore, but he's still pulling his hamstring, celebrating in the face of other managers and stuff.
Someone just put another great moment up there, Mane and Munich, but we are doing Premier League today because it's the jumping off point is 300 games in the Premier League if you're only just joining us now. So we're talking about our favourite Klopp games in the Premier League. So that was my number 9. What was your number 9?
Well, it was funny because that was the only one you've got on your list I didn't have on my list. I'd missed that off, and it was brilliant. I remember that Mane goal really well. My number 9 was, I think, is on your list, but yours is higher up. Is the Villa away, the 2-1, and that was the league winning year, wasn't it? Like, so look, a few of mine that are higher up, it's because it was the league winning season, so they've been bumped up. So Villa away was up there for me because, well, it's got to be in the top 10. That was one of those games where you're like, again, I often talk about this, and City have done this in seasons against us, where when certain things are happening, you're like, we're going to win the league. It's just going for us. Everything's just going for us. And that was one of them. Like, Robbo scoring a header at the back post. Like, how often do you see that? So yeah, that's number 9 for me.
That's number 2 on my list. Because I was there.
Well, I was just about to say this. Your first 2, you were at the ground. And that makes a difference to your memory, doesn't it? Because I wasn't at any of these.
Well, Aston Villa was unbelievable because, you know, like you said, it did feel one of those moments because City scored they came back and beat Southampton, and their game finished before us, and we knew what had happened. And obviously, the way things were going that day at Villa, it just felt like one of them days. It just wasn't going our way. I'm pretty sure, for me, I think that's the game where Firmino has one ruled out for offside. That was marginal. And then it just didn't look like it was happening. And you just thought, it's not happening. And then from, you know, Robertson 87, Mane 94, and it goes from like, you had all these Villa fans taunting us to us just being like, get And
Yeah.
like, you know, and the way things have gone for City as well. Like I remember us just being like, it is on. We are going to win this thing. And I remember I was with Ian Ryan, who people might know from the Anfield rap. And he just disappeared. I didn't know where he'd gone. And he literally he clambered over all these rows and disappeared off. And I was like, where's he gone? And I'm there. I was there, like, you know, it was one of those like hugging strangers moments, because it was like you were down in the dumps and you could hear what had happened with City, and you just thought, no, not again. And then we turn it round in that way. And I remember all the players as well. You know, the away end at Villa's sort of on the side, and they all come over and they were all giving it like beating the chests, and like you could see how much it meant to them as well. Yeah. And you just thought, yeah, absolutely on this now. And so it proved. So that was your number 9, was it?
That's
and that was
my
number
2.
So number 8 for me then, I've gone for Manchester City 1, Liverpool 4. This was the 21st of November 2015. What I enjoyed about this one so much, this is Pellegrini still in charge of City. But nevertheless, City was still City. City's still a bit of like a nemesis and a rival and all that kind of stuff. But what I liked about it, this was another one of those days where you just thought, yeah, Klopp's going to, you know, this is only a month into his reign or so. Yeah. And to go away to Manchester City, beat them 4-1, and like, you know, loads of stuff was clicking. You know, Firmino all of a sudden looked a player. Firmino was clicking with Coutinho. They're setting each other up. They're both getting on the score sheet. And all of a sudden you thought, yeah, here we go. Because I always think about the sort of story off to the left about this, which was obviously Rodgers was a bit weird with Firmino, wasn't he? And the story went that he didn't want him and he wanted Benteke, and they ended up getting both. And then, you know, he used Firmino in a really weird way at times, didn't he? Like a sort of glorified right back at Old Trafford and things like that. And then he's like, he's not performing. Well, he's not that player, mate. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Klopp comes in and goes, I can't believe this player, Liverpool recruited this player.
Got him. Yeah, I remember him saying that. Yeah. Like, I always remember when we got Klopp. I might have said this on a show the other week. Like, everyone wanted us to buy Marco Reus. Everyone was banging on about it. And I remember him coming in and basically saying, like, you don't know how good your squad is. Like, I've coached all those lads at Dortmund for years, and I've come here. Your squad's sound. Don't worry about it. And he was basically saying, I don't need Marco Reus. You've already got lads here. Don't worry about it. And that, Firmino was one of the biggest points in that, wasn't it? Then, again, you know, referencing our new crush. Postecoglou. How'd you say his name?
Postecoglou. Yeah.
Ange. I'll just call him Ange.
Big Ange.
Same thing with him. He's come into that squad and gone. And it's funny, isn't it? That's what owners are always looking for. They're looking for the fella who can come in and go, see that lad you've got there who the other fella thought was shit? He's boss. Yeah. And that's what he's done. He's come in, pulled lads out there, who were out in the wilderness and brought them back in and gone, the owner's like, fucking hell, when we bought him 3 years ago, we thought he was good. He's like, yeah, he is good. And that's what Klopp did really, really well with loads of these lads. And yeah, that was a big one. I liked this comment caught my eye earlier. I just found it again. Just it doesn't add to what we were just particularly talking about in reference to that game, but it's good reference to the show in general. It's from he calls himself Lee Whizkid in the comments, and he says, I've been a Red for over 50 years, and Klopp gave us the gift of the present, so we didn't have to wear out our past. I love that. That's a nice turn of phrase there. Poetic. What was your number 8? We've got the same in the same place. That's mad, isn't it? Yeah. So you had that as well for 8, that? Yeah. Manchester City 1, Liverpool 4. Okay. But do you know what's funny is I've just seen what you've got coming up next, and it's one that's it wasn't on my list, but only because I'd forgotten about it, and I was there. So I'm actually just looking at my list going, ooh, what would I bump for this one? Well, I was like this when I was doing it myself. I ended up taking loads of time on this, and then, you know, sort of not having a real agenda for the late challenge, but watch anyway. But yeah, Everton 0. This is my number 7. Everton 0, Liverpool 1, 19th of December 2016. Mane 90 plus 4. I don't think I really need to say much more, do I? I mean, how could you forget that one? And, you know, if you were there as well, you'll know as well as I do that it absolutely went off in that end. You could sense, I always say when I think back about it, that when the injury time board goes up, there was almost like a huge collective groan, like they knew it was coming. Well, we were in the lower Bullens for that. I was with Jono again, Anfield Rap connection, and we were like 3 seats away from the fence, So we were like listening to their shit all the way through the game. Everyone shouting shit back. And it was hilarious because obviously they were getting through the whole thing. And when it came to stoppage time, honestly, some of them went white. Like you could see them like the blood drain out their face because they almost willed it to happen as much as we did because our optimism is matched only by their levels of pessimism. And there were people leaving. I heard fellas going, I'm fucking getting off. Like, I'm not waiting around for what's going to happen next.
I know, and I've seen this film before. Yeah.
But it did, like, that end went off, didn't it?
You know, the other thing as well is that, like, you know, we like have a laugh about Everton and all the rest of it, but, you know, results at Goodison have not been the greatest. There's loads of draws, there's loads of 0-0s and all that kind of thing. Well, so to edge it and to win it in that fashion, and for it to be like a week before Christmas or a few days before, like I remember being in the boozer afterwards and everyone singing like Merry Christmas Everton and all that. And it was just a brilliant moment.
Well, and similar to what you said before about Villa, like it was just perfectly set up for like the goal was scored right in front of the away fans, so the players could run straight to us. The flares were on the pitch. It was just, it was like a magical miracle moment to add to our like whole history repertoire, wasn't it?
Superb. So that was my number 7. What's your number 7? So
my 7 was the Norwich 5-4.
Okay, so
I'm interested what I've got in here that you haven't then.
Well, we'll move on to my 6 then. So my 6 is theme developing. Liverpool 1, Everton 0, 2nd of December 2018, and this is a Origi 90+6. And again, you can sort of, you know, paint your own pictures already. I mean, I'm sure you can already see the arms that weren't big enough. I'm sure you can already see the ball bouncing off the bar. I'm sure you can see that blue flare on the pitch. I'm sure you can see Origi running away with the ball as though like, you know, like he'd scored an equaliser. It's like, what are you doing?
Lad, we're all right. We'll just sell this one.
I mean, that was just, as much as it was good, and obviously Klopp's on the pitch himself, isn't he, and all that, you know, yet again, him sort of reflecting the emotions we're feeling. And yeah, I'll never ever forget that moment. I mean, that was just like, you know, it was cop end as well, wasn't it?
I honestly,
I'm in the cop, and it's just.
Well, me and you have talked about like some like our bad memories and certain things. Everything you said then, I can picture that goal, like that last few minutes, like a movie in my mind. It's indelibly ingrained. Like because I was high up in the main stand. That was back when I had a season ticket, and. So we're back at the main stand towards the away supporters. So about halfway through the half. So the flare was basically eye line with me. So you look down, it was like watching a movie. You look down, you see the blue flare. You look up, you see Van Dijk's shot slice into the sky.
Spoon the shot.
Like it's in slow motion. It comes down, it bounces off the top of the bar. You see Pickford's floundering, and there's Divock doing what Divock does to them. And again, like it just going off. And something I've always loved in football grounds, which is a feeling that's hard to describe because it only happens in certain situations, is when you burst out laughing. Yeah. Like as I was celebrating, we were all laughing our heads off. Like, look at it, Everton. Look at it, Everton going, that's hilarious that's just happened. Then it could only happen to you by us.
And Klopp, you know, chest bumping Alisson and all that kind of. Is that the one where, is that the game that Carragher's commentating on it? It says, look at Jurgen Klopp.
I think so, yeah.
I love that as well when I saw it back. Okay, well, that was my number 6. We're going to have to motor through.
That was my 6 as well. So we had 2 matching ones. Yeah.
So 5, I had West Brom, which you've already discussed, which you had, you had lower down the list. 4, I've gone for, again, fairly self-explanatory, Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0. And that's, again, it's just one of them moments. It's just, you know, it might not have been the best seasons for Liverpool, but to beat them in that fashion, by that scoreline, absolutely brilliant. And there is a reason that I have a picture of the scoreboard in a frame on my wall. And it is, some people may say it's because I'm sad, but I'll say it's because I endured what felt like a lifetime of misery because of them. And so to do that to them in that fashion, by that scoreline, that's got to be one of the best moments.
Yeah, I think only our age group can sort of understand that United thing. Because unless people who were older than us got all loads of glory years before United were dominant. People who were younger than us didn't have to endure the United dominance. Basically, our entire lives, grown-up lives, was United dominance, wasn't it?
I worked there for 10 years as well.
I worked over there as well, and it was just shit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we had to,
we had to cling to very rare moments, like, the Murphy goals.
The Murphy goals and beating them at Old Trafford and that. Yeah. But what they're having to endure with us, or have had to under recent years with Klopp, we had to endure for 20 years. It was just horrible. Yeah. I remember every time, like, my mum would message me saying, see, United are getting beat. And I'd be like, they'll win. I just always like, they'll win. How long's left? 2 minutes. They'll win.
They'll win.
And they would.
Yeah.
And
John O'Shea.
Brilliant. Yeah. Bosh. They've won again. Yeah. Sound. And for that reason, interestingly, so what's that for you? 4. That's number 1 on my list.
Number 1. What's your 4?
4 is when we beat City 3-1 in the league winning season.
I had that one on and I took it off.
So that's the one that switched.
Fabinho won that one.
Fabinho scored the screamer. We were 3-0 up. And the reason I put it in is A, we won the league that year. B, I know we both had the 4-1 away, but this is Guardiola City in their pomp, at their best, with all their money, with all the allegations that hadn't been made.
Anfield was loud.
Anfield's bouncing. And we won. And even when I watched the goals back of that earlier on. And it's one of those games when you can see in the players that, and I remember that this season was that season. We're like, we're going to win the league this year.
Yeah.
And that game was like us going to them. Yous aren't as good as us. We're going to beat you. And it almost City going, shit.
That was another one of those days where Guardiola lost it as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it was, they didn't get it was a handball from Trent or something they were claiming.
Was that the 2 at the sky? Was that one?
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah. two, that one. Yeah. Like
Old man and cloud and all that, wasn't it?
That's a theme in recent weeks, isn't it? Old man shouting at cloud. That's what we're turning into.
So that was 4. I had that in and took that out because when I thought I had 10 and I had 11 and I dropped that one out because number 3 I've gone for Manchester United 0, Liverpool 5, 24th of October 2021. Again, this was just sort of for very similar reasons. Obviously, I'd been to Old Trafford so many times and just not seeing as they were. Obviously, I mean, we had a good one under Rodgers, to be fair. Suarez, Sturridge, Sterling, and all that kind of era of Reds when they had Moyes, and they began their time as a bit of a laughing stock. But to go and do 5 against them and to see them all filing out the ground, that was absolutely brilliant. And Keita on 5 minutes, Jota on 13, Salah on 38. And it's just they all got off. Well, loads of them got off at half time, and yeah, that was special. And I remember getting back to Liverpool and just all the bars were just bouncing.
Yeah.
And you saw so many faces, so many smiling faces, and it was unbelievable. And I from a personal point of view as well, a selfish one, I'd done a piece for Match of the Day too, and I'd had it, so they spoke to a Man United fan and a Liverpool fan, and on it I'd said our manager's world class, their manager's a substitute that used to play for them. You know what I mean? I'd got all these digs in and I thought, I'm going to look daft if that goes on the telly later on and we got beat. And instead we won 5-0. So I was like,
perfect.
Thank God for that. So it turned out nice again. But yeah, the Solskjaer Man United absolutely owned.
So that was third on your list?
That was third on my list. You know what else I liked about that as well is, well, not liked, but I like it now, is that we absolutely, schooled them that day. Obviously, we were so far the better side. And we took our foot off the gas. We decided, because was it Naby who got done by Pogba?
Yeah.
And then I think after that, I think they had a bit of a collective chat and we sort of went, well, they're just going to start cracking us.
Just leave it now, yeah.
Yeah, we need to crack on and move on. And I remember Mo fuming. Literally, I don't know if you could see that, when you're watching on the telly, but from the stands, he was kicking off on his teammates, saying let's go for it. Yeah. And that was what was good about the 7-0, because it was almost they went for it that time and they just kept scoring. Yeah. They gave up. They cashed the chips in at 5-0. Yeah. Could have kept going.
Well, I was just looking at that. The last goal was on the 50th minute.
Yeah.
So we'd won 5-0 by 5 minutes after half time.
They have a man sent off on 60.
On 60 after that.
So we could have
we could have really annihilated them, couldn't we?
They just just sort of eased off and said, that'll do for us now.
Yeah, you're right. Well, it's interesting. So that was third. That was fifth on my list.
What's your third?
So
then?
third on the list. And it's funny because, it's beaten a 5-0 away at Old Trafford, which I love for all the reasons you just said. But it was the 2-0 at home for the league win. Mainly for that, the Salah goal. When he goes that was
through,
the moment,
and we knew,
and everyone.
Wasn't that the first time?
That was the first time we sang we're going to win the league, and what? I'm good. I'm thinking about people who'd be like, "Hang on, mate, I missed the game because it was my cousin's birthday, and he wanted to go out in town, and all the family were there." And I remember going, "All right, I remember going. I've been to loads of Liverpool Man United games, so I'll go. It's my cousin's birthday. We'll go and watch it. I think it might have been his 40th. Yeah, because I think it was a normal birthday. I wouldn't have done it. It was his 40th. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come. And then afterwards, people were like, you dickhead, you've missed like the greatest moments of the season there. But even with that, me missing it personally, I was obviously still watching it in town. That's up there for me just for that.
It was a huge release that it was like a core.
Because I remember everyone holding it back, weren't they? Like I think you've got my number 2 is your number 1, I think. And even because when we'll come on to talk about it, I remember everyone going, we were still holding it in because everyone like quietly was going, we're going to win the league, and everyone was like, shut up, shut up. Yeah. And that was that moment, that Salah goal was when everyone was like, let it out.
Yeah, it was pumped out, it was banged out, it was so loud, it was from the rafters, and it was against them as well, which is brilliant. You know what I mean? It was like, we know now, and we're telling you it's happening. Yeah. And you've got to go back to Manchester on a coach knowing we're going to win the league. Yeah. Superb. That's an absolute shout. That I probably would have put that in if I thought about it. So what were we up to? That was
my 3.
Okay, my 2 then. We're all right. We've done it, haven't we? My 2 was Aston Villa away in the season that we did win the league. Already talked about that. What was your 2?
My 2 is your 1.
So my 1 is Leicester City 0. Liverpool 4, 26th of December 2019. Leicester was second in the league at the time. It's worth remembering.
Everyone forgets that.
And
they were boss.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone was saying this is where they're going to trip up.
Yeah. Well, we'd come back from the Club World Cup, hadn't we? Yeah. We had a fixture pile up. Yeah. We had all controversy going on. You've got to play this game and that game, and Klopp wasn't happy and blah, 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 blah. And it was, for me, it was another one of those where we came home, we went, we're the champions of the world, we're the champions of Europe, watch this. And we were again, brilliant. I can vividly remember it. I was I was in town watching it. We were unbelievable. We blew them away. The football we played was phenomenal. We scored 4. We could have been 3-0 up before we'd scored. We were just sensational that day. And that was that was when Trent scored and did the Mbappe celebration, wasn't it? And all of that, the whole feel of that side, then it was like, this is real, this.
Yeah, it was superb that day, and that put the Reds 13 points clear. And I think again, it was then where you were just like, it's happening. It's happening. We're going to finally do it. Yeah. And okay, it was a bit shit the way, the season unfolded with COVID and all the rest of it. And people still say to me now, Kirkland was saying to me, I did Kip on the Cop on Saturday. Probably should give that a little shout if people still want to donate or sponsor me for that, even though it's now been done and I've Kipped on the Cop. You can still throw money in to help raise money for the homeless and vulnerable in the city. It's all over my socials. You'll find it if you search for Kip on the Cop in general as well. But he said to me then, there's still a sadness for me that we didn't get to like really properly celebrate it in the ground and all that. And I said, well, that can be the motivation for when we win it again, though, can't it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, that like, will be the motivation right now for some of them. 100%. And that's why, I don't want to go into negatives because this is a very positive show. That's why I'm like, please just go for it now. Like, we've got 2 years left of Klopp probably. Just go for it, please. Buy the extra players. Even if, I feel like sitting down with Jurgen and going, look, Jurgen, I know you're planning all of this with our best interests at heart. You don't want to overspend now and then leave us with shit when you've gone. Don't worry about that. Just buy an extra centre-back. Buy an extra player. We're all right with it. We want you to go and win another league with Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. This is our time. Go and do it again.
100%. Well, should we just quickly recap then our 10s? Because I know this is Anfield. I want to throw up a bit of a graphic, so I don't know whether this fits in with the graphic. I'm trying to work it the best way I can. So my 10 is my 10 favourite games under Klopp, although you did throw in one that I fancied, but I'll stick to my original list. So 10 is Norwich 4, Liverpool 5. 9 is Arsenal 3, Liverpool 4. 8 is Man City 1, Liverpool 4. 7 is Everton 0, Liverpool Liverpool 1, Sadio Mane. 6 is Liverpool 1, Everton 0, Divock Origi. 5 is West Brom 1, Liverpool 2, the Alisson 90+5 header. 4 is the 7-0 against Man United. 3 is the 5-0 away at Old Trafford. 2 is the 2-1 win at Aston Villa, the very late win that put us on course to the title. And 1 is the 4-0 win against Leicester City away, Boxing Day 2019. So you just want to recap yours as well?
So my 10, so yeah, the caveat with this is that the Mane 1-0 at Everton would sneak into this now, but I haven't got time to think about who would be bumped out. So 10 is the West Brom 2-1 win with the Alisson header. 9 is Villa 2-1 away. 8 is City 4-1 away. 7 is Norwich 5-4. 6 is the Everton Divock Origi 1-0. 5 is United 5-0. 4 is beating City 3-1 at home in the league winning season. 3 is beating United 2-0 in the same season. 2 is Leicester 4-0 away on Boxing Day. And number 1 is beating United 7-0.
Okay, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back later on in the week for another show in conjunction with this Anfield. Look out for that. We shall be talking about on that show, is Mo Salah still underrated by some? I think we're probably going to argue he is, but equally, I would argue he's among the best ever to have played with this club. So we'll be talking about that later on in the week. Check that out. Check out the Late Challenge. If you do like all this stuff as well, do shout about it, share it, talk about it on social. You know, click the follow button on this channel, on our channel, on all of those type of things, because all of those things help. We're trying to make all this work, and we're trying to make it, you know, something we can keep on doing, and those things help us do that. So hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for all your comments there. And we shall see you again next Monday, live at 5.